Betrayed, my girlfriend. My dad. Our bed, a Reddit nightmare. The images burned into my brain. An unerasable horror that replays every time I close my eyes. You won't believe what I walked in on. Something that destroyed my life and made me question everything I ever thought I knew about love, loyalty, and family. Buckle up. Because this is a story of betrayal so twisted. It could only happen on Reddit. I'm 26. And my girlfriend, Char, is 24. My dad, Clark, is 52. And my mom, Dee, is 50. It feels like I'm living in a twisted movie. The kind you watch with your hands over your eyes, whispering, "This would never happen to me." But it did. This is my first time posting on Reddit. But honestly, I'm desperate for some advice. Please forgive me if I ramble or get emotional. This is still raw. It's only been a week since my world imploded. Char and I met during her freshman year of college. We hit it off at a frat party, bonded over mutual friends, and discovered we grew up just a few towns apart. As we spent more time together, our connection deepened. Both of us come from close-knit families who welcomed each other with open arms. Things were picture perfect. When we met, I was nearing the end of my degree, while Char was just starting hers. After graduation, I moved back home for a killer job opportunity. It was about 3 hours away. But I visited Char as often as possible. And she did the same when she came home. Long distance was tough, especially as her studies became more demanding. But I respected her ambition. I knew she was the one. I had it all planned out. I was saving up to buy a place back in the city, ready to make the move once she graduated. She decided to take a semester off before finishing her degree, which I thought would give us time to find our dream place. Now, looking back, I see all the red flags I willingly ignored, dismissing them as my dad just being overly welcoming to my girlfriend. The first was when my dad called me, sounding surprised and almost upset when he realized it was me. He said he needed to talk to Char about some apartment repairs she needed help with repairs. She supposedly asked me to do but that I hadn't gotten around to. I remember laughing it off, saying I didn't recall her asking me to fix anything. He brushed it off, but the unease lingered. It was a seemingly normal day when everything came crashing down. Char made me breakfast, kissed me goodbye, and told me to have a good day. Just like always. On my drive to work, I realized I'd forgotten some vital paperwork for a 2 p.m. meeting. I planned to grab it during my lunch break. All day, I was thinking about a new bakery that opened up nearby. So, during lunch, I impulsively decided to surprise Char with some gourmet cookies. I didn't bother calling. It was just a quick trip. As I pulled into the parking lot of our apartment building, I noticed my dad's car parked outside. Strange. But I didn't think much of it. Maybe they were planning a surprise party. But then I noticed my dad's work boots at the front door. But then came the clothes. Her clothes were everywhere. Then my blood ran cold when I heard moaning. The kind of moaning no son ever wants to hear, especially not coming from his own father's direction. I felt sick. Utterly violated. I don't know why. But I had to see it for myself. I pulled out my phone to record it because I knew nobody would believe me otherwise. Gathering the scattered clothes in one hand, I walked down the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. The door was slightly ajar, and I stood there for what felt like an eternity, before throwing the clothes onto them as they were going at it. My dad noticed I was recording and panicked. Char started throwing pillows at me. He lunged for my phone, but I pushed him back, sending him crashing into the dresser. Char. Dad, what? I was beyond words. Just a choke sound of disbelief. How could you? My dad scrambled to cover himself, and I told them I just needed my paperwork. Then, I said something like, "She just S all over my life and made a fool out of me." I ended the recording, told my dad he was dead to me, and said I couldn't wait to tell Mom. He flew into a rage, demanding I not tell her. He lunged at me again, trying to snatch my phone. I threatened to send the video to my mom instantly if he touched me again, giving him one last chance to confess. I sat in my car, trying to compose myself, when my boss called, asking where I was. I hadn't realized how long I'd been sitting there. I assured her I was on my way back. At work. My boss immediately saw something was wrong. I tried to brush it off, but she persisted. Finally, I showed her the video. The shock on her face was indescribable. She offered her support, saying they'd manage the meeting without me and that she understood if I needed time off. I refused. I insisted on leading the meeting, needing to control something while my life crumbled around me. She offered me a place to stay. She's like a second mother to me. The day crawled by. I dreaded going back to the apartment, hoping to God my dad wasn't there. When I finally got home, Char was sitting on the couch, looking like death warmed over. She tried to hug me, but I pushed her away. I told her to pack her things and leave. I had plans for us. Char, I was going to marry you. I waited for you. She just kept repeating, I'm sorry. I know I'm sorry. It's not what you think it is. How is it not what I think it is? Pretty sure my father was inside of you. She started sobbing, claiming he forced himself on her. I didn't believe it. I demanded to know how long it had been going on. She confessed to a brief thing last Christmas, when I went to bed early after too much to drink. They kept drinking in the basement and ended up making out on the couch. Then, nothing until she moved in with me a few months ago, and he asked her to come over. She said she didn't want to at first, but he threatened to tell me about the Christmas incident. Bullshit. I said. You still went over. I told her to leave. When she wouldn't, I decided I would. But then I realized I wasn't leaving my home. I ended up packing her things, dragging her bags into the hallway while she sobbed and clung to my legs. I threw the bags out, threatened to call the cops and send the video to everyone we knew if she didn't leave. Finally, she got up and left. I called my mom that evening. She asked if I'd see my dad. He hadn't come home from work. I told her everything. I broke down, sobbing to my mom over the phone. Apparently, my dad came back the next day, claiming he'd gotten drunk at his brother's and passed out. But my mom kicked him out of the family home. I also lost my job over this entire mess. I thought about not sending the video to anyone. But then I was sitting at my apartment thinking of the lies that the man I used to call my father. And I just couldn't stand for that. There was no way they were going to walk away unscathed. It was a small town, so rumors were swirling about why my mom kicked Clark out. I couldn't handle the drama, and my mom was too nice to say anything. She kept saying he was on a fishing trip. I just wanted them to hurt like my mom and I did. I'll never forget seeing him on my bed with my girlfriend, the woman I wanted to spend forever with. I realized I didn't know her, and I didn't know who Clark was at all. My whole life felt like a lie, and I didn't want my mom to have to make up lies to protect some scumbag. After I sent the video, everything went public. His job went to us. She lost her apartment. And since I've sent the video, our families don't speak to her anymore either. She said she was really rooting for me, and that I did a lot. She said that she still wants to be in my life. I decided to shoot my shot and ask her out, and we're actually going for coffee next week. She studied psychology in Edinburgh and was now in the city practicing in her own clinic. Anyways, they aren't helping her with school anymore either. They were paying for her schooling, and so since they've cut her off, my dad's staying in a camper on some random guy's land outside of town. Anyway, I feel good and I'm looking forward to seeing. You never know what the future holds. Wife of 10 days cheated on me with her friend and tried to hide. So I kicked her out and now she's begging me to take her back. My wife, play 26 female and I, play 28 male, were married for 10 days. It was at this point that she started acting guilty and closed off. We had just returned home from our honeymoon. When she came home from work that night, she was later than normal, and I could tell something was off. She got into the shower first. She wore more clothes to bed than usual. My wife and I became each other's best friend. We had to work through arguments, disagreement. We watched a lot of information videos about psychology and relationships, grips together, and refused to hear me out on sensitive topics. She always wanted us to be honest with each other, even if it was about us downloading a social media. We had permission and the ability to check each other's phones. I had a video channel from when I was a teenager. When she discovered this old channel, she freaked out on me. She accused me of lying by omission because I never told her about. I told her she was overreacting because it was old, and I forgot about it. She did not want to hear that she was overreact. The day after we were married, a friend of mine reached out to me. I watched it without telling her. Then confronted her about having an account without telling me. I tried to tell her that wasn't the point. One of these platforms because they tend to be toxic and cause problems in relationship. That's what I told her. I saw the video and knew that it wasn't of the dogs. But she didn't let that motivate her to take accountability or admit she lied. Instead, she asked me why I had to turn this into a reason to fight, and said she didn't want me to make a big deal out of this, since she didn't make a big deal out of my. I reminded her that that was from years ago. Nothing behind my back. She apologized to me. That brings us to 10 days after our wedding. When she came home late from work at the bar and showered before laying curled up on the edge of the bed, the bed started shaking a little. It felt like she was stifling her, so I sat straight up in bed and asked her if she was okay. I turned on the light and stared at her. She finally admitted she cheated on me, but she didn't say it like that. She said a guy offered to give her a ride home when her car didn't start. She told me she accepted. I freaked out. I started screaming and crying in disbelief. I asked her if she knew and what he looked like. She hesitated before answering me. Then she said she didn't want to tell the police because he was a friend of hers. I found it hard to control my breathing. It was hard for me to clarify the situation with her because a voice in my head kept telling me that she wanted to sleep with this man. But she couldn't tell me that because she didn't want to suffer the consequences of cheating. It didn't take long for me to start screaming at her to get out. She didn't want to report this friend of hers forcing himself on her because she didn't want him to go to jail. I asked her repeatedly if she wanted to have sex with this guy, and she said no. When I asked her to give me her phone, I said I wanted to check her messages, and she became extremely defensive. She wasn't upset anymore. She was mad at me for refusing to trust. I reminded her that we had a rule between us. Because trust is continuously here. Consequences. I started shoveling her stuff out onto the side. I grabbed trash bags and started throwing anything of hers outside. Despite her cries for me to stop and listen, she finally and told me I was right. She did sleep with, and he was better than I ever was. That right there was a warped woman my wife had become. Her ego started to inflate until she couldn't resist the temptation to find another man. I was just extremely disappointed that it happened to me. I love this girl, and I know she loved me. She shouldn't have to be held accountable or suffer through any reaper. After the dust, I started my own channel. They don't have to compromise. As a matter of fact, many women today foolishly believe they don't need a man or any man at all in life. I became pretty popular. Months after I kicked her out of the apartment, she started begging my forgiveness. She wants to get back with me badly. So, Reddit, tell me honestly, based on everything you've read, do you think I handled the situation correctly? Was I justified in exposing them? Should I have done things differently? I'm open to any and all opinions, even the harsh ones. What would you have done in my shoes? I'm just trying to process everything and figure out how to move forward. And your perspective would mean the world to me right now.